Sorry. Welcome to Relevant Tones. I'm Seth Bosted. I'm going to try to get this timer to stop going. We are streaming live from Caveat in Manhattan. I am really excited about tonight for several reasons, not least of which we've got a great program. Got this mammoth marimba here. Going to hear a string quartet later, some clarinet music, fabulous music inspired by astrology, which is the theme for tonight. But I'm also excited because this is a new venture. This is Relevant Tones 2.0, launching it now in a new format as a live stream show. This is the first time I've ever broadcast with live stream as the exclusive broadcast medium, which is really exciting. So very happy about that. My idea for this new format for Relevant Tones was to, well, it's a little nerdy, to take a big conversation, have really get into it, talk about things that are affecting all of us as human beings, but especially creative people and especially composers, especially living composers, because Relevant Tones focuses on the music of today. So the premise of the show is art doesn't happen in a vacuum. We're going to talk about a lot of things that are happening out there and how that impacts music that's being created today. And then we're going to hear some of that music. So I'm really excited to have these special guests tonight, expert astrologers Rebecca Gordon and Samuel F. Reynolds. Thanks so much for coming. You guys grab your mics. Yeah, there's one there on your right, Rebecca. Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about this, but let's get to know both of you a little bit first. I assume that when you were kids, you weren't thinking, I'm going to grow up to be a professional astrologer. I don't recall that being an option at career day in elementary school. So let's start with you, Sam. Just 1 minute. How did you get into astrology?
Trying to disprove it, actually.
Oh, okay.
So this was my most successful failure. So I actually got into it after seeing an astrologer. And I was blown away by what he had to say, but I thought it was all a trick. So I spent 10 years researching and looking at charts and looking at what astrology was made of and thinking about it before I decided that I wanted to be an astrologer. So I had to actually vet it first because it didn't make any sense to me.
Mm-hmm. And we'll talk a little bit more about what you really specifically got into. And Rebecca, how about you?
So I actually started off with an interest in astronomy, not astrology. So as a kid, I actually kind of did want to be an astronomer. My favorite place was the Hayden Planetarium to go back then. Anyway, I discovered astrology at about age 14. Found a book on a neighbor's shelf. That woman that was my neighbor soon became my stepmother, and my stepmother then became my astrology mentor, and we studied weekly. At first, similar to Sam, I was like, wait, I like astronomy. What is this mumbo jumbo? And similarly, I tried to prove it wrong. I was like, how can this be? And the more I looked into it, the more compelling it became. It completely took me in awe and captured my life. So here we are.
Oh, that's fantastic. So I had, or have, several dozen themes for different Relevant Tones episodes. I chose astrology for this one after reading an article in The New Yorker, which was a pretty interesting article where they were saying that astrology is right now experiencing a boom in popularity. There's more mainstream acceptance of astrology than there has been since like the 1970s. People are talking about it openly during the day. So what do you think is, why do you think there is this uptick of popularity? For either of you.
Okay. As you say that, there's 3 reasons that come up. The first one would be the democratization of astrology because of the internet and social media, whereas all these people that used to be interested in it, maybe in corporate, were hiding it in their cubicles, their horoscope magazines, and things like that. And now with Instagram, there's so many people sharing it freely, and everybody can get out of the closet, so to speak, and it's sort of more openly accepted, as well as just overall spirituality is in self-realization studies as well are becoming more mainstream, I believe. So that's a wonderful thing. People are becoming more interested in why we are here, what we are doing. The second reason is actually something astrological. And Sam, you're going to know what I'm talking about with this. The planet Neptune, which pretty much rules pretty much how we see God at any time, how we find spirit. And Neptune is in the sign of Pisces right now, so it's as if the floodgates are open. and people have been more open than ever. This is a 14-year cycle. We're in the middle of it right now. The last time it happened was in the 1840s, 1850s, and that was a huge rise in spirituality across the world. And so we're seeing that come up again right now.
So when you say people are open, that's what you mean? People are open to more spiritual concepts?
Yeah, I mean, back in the 1840s and 50s, there was this big trend of seances and the spiritualist church that came up in upstate New York and all over the globe. There was these bubbling, simmering bits of different versions of ways of connecting to spirit, and astrology being one of them. Now it's having that same cycle is reoccurring right now. And astrology is basically pattern recognition. So this is another pattern that's reoccurring right now. And the last reason that I would say is meaning. You know, I always imagine, like, if there was a grocery store at the end of the world, what people really desire is meaning. Why are we here? What are we doing on this planet? And now more than ever, when there's so many questions, when we look at our politics and whole global situation, we question, what is this about? What is this existence? Why are we here? And as situations can become more tenuous, the quest for meaning becomes heightened. And that's also, I think, a factor. So I know Sam has something else interesting we discussed today, too.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah, I mean, one other thing I'll add is that it's an astrological factor. I would say that a particular set of people born probably in the late 80s under the auspices of the time when Uranus was in Sagittarius, they've come of age where they want to broaden their horizons, both in terms of philosophically and also spiritually, like Rebecca was talking about. And I think what comes with that is just being open, and being open to what other possibilities rather than just what's termed by religion or what's termed by science. And so they want to kind of find a different way of looking at that. Piggybacking off of that thought, I think we also have a number of people who haven't found a home philosophically or identity-wise through astrology without some other aspects of judgment. You know, there's been judgment from the scientific community at one point for those who are LGBTQ, right? And so there's also been that from the religious community. In astrology, you can just be an Aries, right, or a Virgo, and not worried about someone kind of stigmatizing you or stymieing you from a particular angle. Now, some people are concerned about that, and they say, like, oh, well, that could lead to another kind of discrimination. Well, let me tell you, there are more people who have been lynched for being black than being a Libra. So
that's undeniably true. I hope.
And I think, and race is just as tenuous as a concept as a zodiac.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can talk about that. It's interesting. There's a thing in the New Yorker article too that, like, I mean, some millennials are, you know, refusing to date certain signs or canceling,
right,
so to speak, certain signs. Just, you know, only knowing their sun sign, they're like, well, I'm not going to like you. I'm going to just save myself some time and trouble here.
Right.
Which seems a little irresponsible, but
it is.
Agreed.
And I agree. I mean, I think most astrologers would agree because they're just taking one little sample of information and ballooning it out of too much.
All right, let's have some music now. So the first piece on the program, inspired by astrology, is called Sun in Virgo, and it's by Peri, who her sun sign is in Virgo. I think
yes, indeed,
it's the inspiration for that piece. It's for solo clarinet, and we're going to hear Ford Fourqurean perform. music by Peri, who is here today in the audience, which is always exciting to have the composer present.